Previously on My Fellow Nigerians.
Now colonialism is crumbling in black Africa. Ghana and Guinea are free, and Nigeria stands on the eve of freedom. Nigeria is the most populous country in all Africa, some 36 million people. It's the biggest remaining piece of the British Empire to go. It will be the largest independent black nation in all the world.
This time for paradise, which we shall jump on October 1, 1960.
Conflicts and corruption plague the nation. And barely 6 years into the new government, the Nigerian military is disrupting the course of Nigerian history forever.
Good to see you could all make it. The revolution has begun.
The mission is to arrest all of them, along with their right-hand men. Abubakar Tafawa Balewa, Samuel Ladoja Hinton, Dennis Chukwude Osadebe, Michael Ihonukara Obara.
And in the army, our target are Major General J.T. Musi, the two brigade commanders, Brigadier Samuel Ademu Legun and Brigadier Mai Malari Zakaria, Colonel Kowa Muhammad, Lieutenant Colonel James Pam, Colonel Raf Shudeinde, and of course the most political officer in the army, Lieutenant Colonel Abogo Lagama, Commander 4th Battalion.
And by January 16, 1966, the acting president, Dr. Nwafo Orizu, announced to Nigerians that a unanimous decision had been reached to voluntarily hand over the administration of government to the military. The 42-year-old GOC, Major General Aguiyi Ironsi, had been vested with authority as the head of the federal military government and supreme commander of the Nigerian Armed Forces.
My main concern is to restore law and order as soon as possible. The federal military government in Nigeria has taken over the administration of the country. Functions of the federal military government will be exercised by the Supreme Military Council, and leaders of which will be announced later.
The new military government was welcomed with a massive outpouring of jubilation and goodwill. Having distinguished itself during the United Nations peacekeeping in Congo, the army was the only national institution that had not been tainted with corruption and anarchy of the post-independence years. The soldiers' crisply starched uniforms, heat caps, and impeccable British accents reinforced positive public perceptions of them. They were regarded as disciplined, honest, and patriotic, and the public generally trusted that they would always act in national interests without succumbing to the temptations of corruption and anarchy that had plagued so many politicians before them. Major General Aguiyi Ironsi appointed military governors in each of the country's 4 regions. He replaced the deposed civilian premiers. Lieutenant Colonel Hassan Katsina was appointed military governor of Northern Region. He was a Sandos-trained officer of Northern Blue Blood and was considered a member of the Northern establishment. He was the son of the Emir of Katsina, Usman Nagogo. Lieutenant Colonel Chukwuemeka Ojukwu was appointed military governor of Eastern Region. He was an astute army officer who studied at the prestigious Oxford University in the United Kingdom before enlisting into the Nigerian army. His father, Sir Louis Odumegu Ojukwu, was a highly respected millionaire businessman and arguably one of the richest men in Nigeria at the time. Lieutenant Colonel Francis Fajui was appointed governor of the Western Region. He was a decorated war hero and was awarded a Medal of Bravery during the peacekeeping operation in Congo. Lieutenant Colonel David Ejo was appointed military governor of the Midwest region. The amiable Lieutenant Colonel Yakubu Gowon succeeded Colonel Coup Mohammed as Chief of Staff at Army Headquarters. He was another Sandhurst-trained officer. During the crisis, he was the officer in greatest proximity to Aguiyi Ironsi and was acting as his virtual second-in-command. In May 1966, Ironsi issued one of the most controversial decrees in Nigeria's history, the Unification Decree. Under the decree, Nigeria will cease to be called the Federal Republic of Nigeria, but instead will be referred to as the Republic of Nigeria. The former regions were now group of provinces, and the military governors would govern group of provinces which corresponded exactly to the former regions. The federal military government was renamed the National Military Government, and so on. Ironsi also abolished all the political parties and over 100 tribal and cultural associations, including the powerful Igbo State of Nation, which at the time was the most powerful Igbo organization. But the most controversial of all, the decree unified the previously separated civil services of each region. Previously, the civil service had been regionalized, with each region having its own separate civil service. A separate civil service had always been an inbuilt protection from the energetic, dominant Igbos, and Northerners feared that unifying the civil service would expose the Northern region's civil service to competition from the better educated Southerners. The passage of the decree split Southern and Northern public opinion. While the South considered Ironsi's political reform as pedestrian, the Northern region considered his reforms too radical.
Why is this legislation necessary when we already have two similar legislation, one of which was enacted this year?
Northern reaction to the decree was swift and violent. Northern mobs took to the streets and protested, chanting Araba, a Hausa word meaning "let us separate." Civil unrest broke out in the northern region, and several hundred Igbos were attacked and murdered by angry northern mobs. Some had their properties looted and burned. The disturbances that ensued brought home the depth of the wounds caused by the January coup. Northerners began asking questions about January. Why was it that no Igbo politician was killed in January? Why was it that only one Igbo soldier was killed? Why were the northern region's two prominent politicians and four highest-ranking soldiers killed? And why was it that Ironsi managed to escape the coup and become head of state? Although the January coup may not have been intended as an Igbo takeover, it inevitably bore the appearance of one. The overwhelming majority of the January plotters were Igbo. Most of the victims were non-Igbo. The Igbo GOC emerged unscathed and became head of state. The Igbo president was conveniently overseas when the measures struck, and Igbo premiers of eastern and mid-western regions were unharmed, while the non-Igbo premiers of the other two regions were murdered. These factors, along with the simple count of the January coup casualties and survivors, would ultimately lead even the most unbiased neutral observer to conclude that the whole affair was an Igbo-inspired plot. In the fallout of the January coup, Northerners were appalled by the Southern nonchalance to the murder of their top military and political leaders. The already fragile relationship between the North and South section of the country was further damaged by some particularly offensive publications by the Southern press, which welcomed the January coup with fanfare. One particular article displayed photos and passages of the dead Sardauna and his ancestry, something that Muslim Northerners considered blasphemous. Northerners accused Igbo traders in the northern region of taunting them about the January coup, provocatively displaying photos of Major Nzeogu and composing songs with bursts of gunfire in the background that reminded them of the January coup. The celebratory reaction to the coup by Igbos in the northern region was inadvertently sensitizing northern fears of an Igbo conspiracy, and at the same time placing Ironsi, an Igbo man, in a very precarious situation. In response, Ironsi passed Decree 44, which made it an offense to display or pass on images, songs, instruments, or words which are likely to provoke any section of the country.
My main concern is to restore law and order as soon as possible.
The seed of discord was being sown by mostly the uneducated class from both regions. These classes did not appreciate the complex military and political dynamic at play and tended to simplify the crisis by portraying the January coup as either an Igbo coup or an Igbo triumph over the North. Although the January coup was a pretext for the anti-Igbo hostility, the real reasons were deep-rooted and can be traced back several years.
One thing I've noticed, Premier, while I've been here, is that Northerners seem to have, I might almost call it, obsession about the Igbos. Could you perhaps explain that to me?
Well, the Igbos are more or less the type of people whose desire is mainly to dominate everybody. If they go to a village, to a town, they want to monopolize everything in that area. If you put them in a labor camp as a laborer, within a year they will try to emerge as headman of that camp, and so on. Well, in the past, our people were not alive to their responsibilities, because you can see from our northernization policy that in 1952, when I came here, there weren't 10 northerners in our civil service here. Then I tried to have it northernized, and now all important posts are being held by northerners.
The Igbos have always dominated commerce in Nigeria, and they were often blamed, rightly or wrongly, for the worsening economic conditions and the rising food prices. Since independence, they also dominated the officer cadre of the army and clerical positions across the country. However, their penetration into other sectors had been kept in check by a northern-led government.
Is this policy of filling all key posts in the north solely with northerners and not with other Nigerians a temporary or a permanent one?
In actual fact, what it is a northerner first. If you can't get a northerner, then we take an expatriate like yourself on contract. If we can't, then we can employ another Nigerian, but on contract too. This is going to be permanent, I should say, as far as I can foresee, because it will be rather dangerous to see the number of boys who are now turning from all our learning institutions, coming out with having no work to do. I'm sure whichever government of the day might be, it will feel rather embarrassed, and it might even lead to bloodshed.
Doesn't this damage the idea, sir, of all people in all regions in Nigeria being fellow citizens of one country?
Well, it might, but you are, new to our region, but how many northerners are employed in the east or in the west? The answer is no. And if there are, there may be 10 laborers employed only.
The apprehension by other ethnic groups was that with an Igbo man as head of state, there was nothing stopping them from completely dominating all other sectors.
It makes no difference to me really whether I win this election or not. I want you to believe me, and I'm not talking politics. For 25 years of my life, I fought for the freedom of Nigeria. Nigeria will attain independence on October 1, 1960. So it makes no difference to me whether the Sardauna or Balewa or Chief Awolowo or myself will become the first Prime Minister. So long as Nigeria is free, I'll be satisfied.
Religion may have also played a part in the growing hostilities. Muslims since independence had controlled the government. The new Supreme Military Council was now dominated by Christians. Aguiyi Ironsi and 3 of the 4 military governors were Catholic. In an effort to prove that he was not leading an Igbo regime, Aguiyi Ironsi naively entrusted his personal security to northern soldiers. He posted the principal staff officer, Lieutenant Colonel Philip Effiong, out of Supreme Headquarters and replaced him with Major Theophilus Danjuma of Northern Jukun ethnic group. His police ADC, Timothy Pam, was also a northerner and younger brother of Lieutenant Colonel Pam, who was murdered in the January coup. On the civilian side, he appointed Hamzat Amadu, a close relative to the slain Sardauna, as his private secretary, and most of his bodyguards were also northerners. By surrounding himself with northern soldiers, Aguiyi Ironsi sealed his own fate. By merely emerging as an Igbo head of state after a coup staged by mostly Igbo soldiers, Aguiyi Ironsi's every move, no matter how well-intentioned, was interpreted as a furtherance to the Igbo plot to dominate the country. Despite the murder of Balewa and Amadu Bello, whom many northerners regarded as patriarchs, northern soldiers were angrier at the death of their highly respected senior officers. Brigadier Mai Malari's murder in particular caused grief among the northern soldiers, who revered him as their hero. Major Murtala Mohammed named his newborn Zachary in honor of their slain boss. While civilians looked largely at the political ramification of the coup, such as the overthrow of Balewa's government and the murders of the Prime Minister and 2 regional premiers, northern soldiers were largely uninterested in the political debates and increasingly felt duty-bound to restore their honor by avenging the death of their northern colleagues murdered in January.